This is the Superpowered Mind podcast for inquiring individuals who are tired of the struggle for peace, happiness, and clarity. I'm Claire Diamond, ready to help you explore the principles of the mind, the self, and reality to unlock ultimate mental freedom. This podcast is the one to listen to if you're ready to experience the capabilities of the superpowered mind. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our 50th episode. And we've had almost 50,000 downloads. So with all the fives, I thought today we would have 5 of my favorite quotes, which I think we could just take these quotes with us throughout life, and that alone would change everything. So the first one, many of you in my membership will know that I've chosen this. Deepak Chopra. The real you is a field of intelligence in which the person you have identified yourself with, all other persons, as well as the environment in which they exist, all co-arise and co-evolve as a result of your own self-interactions. This quote is all we need, really. This is absolutely mind-blowing, and in its precision, it's so articulately, in so few words, describing the entirety of the experience of being and how radically it changes, not just the idea of us, he says the person you've identified yourself with, but all other persons, as well as the environment in which they exist. All of it changing, all co-arising, co-evolving. And this is the important part, as a result of your own self-interaction. So as a result of fluctuating self-understanding, self-belief, self-focus, self-protection, self-realization, as a result of whatever is going on from moment to moment in terms of how self, subconsciously as well, how self is understood subconsciously. As a result of that, everything changes. And that is literally mind-blowing. It gives me goosebumps to consider how real this reality looks, and especially how real it looks when the focus is on me, when I've been rejected or offended, or I'm feeling ashamed or terrified of the future, or depressed about the past, or I'm comparing myself to others and feeling this great sense of lack. In those moments when the self is so high priority, and that vulnerability is such a circular, never-ending, increasing depth of self-focus, isn't it? It just gets more and more. In those moments, everything just looks so real. There's no doubt, there's no question. The mind is just completely believing its own content. And then when that's not happening, when there is no self-focus, when it's not, there's no sort of sense of vulnerability or protection required, and the mind maybe is just engaged in the world, listening to other people, maybe problem solving, engaged in imagining, but knowing that it's imagining, creating art or writing, then it's a whole other reality of existence, isn't it? It's just incredible. And this quote really sums up for all of us how fluid reality is, and of the enormity, the infinite potential that is available through the mind's recognition of its own self and of what it can create. So then my next quote is from Byron Katie, who I adore her work. The love and the laughter, the freedom that she brings to this exploration, I love it so much. This quote I've chosen because a big protection is that I can exit from any criticism of me, because I can just deny your existence. We really see it, don't we? And this quote means that we can't do that. Our parents, our children, our spouses, and our friends we could add in there our colleagues, our bosses, our bank manager, all the rest of it, will continue to press every button we have until we realize what it is that we don't want to know about ourselves yet. They will point us to our freedom every time. And this is one of the reasons why I think there's such integrity in Byron Katie's work, is that it's an entire philosophy of moving deeper into the world, deeper into relationships, staying in those conversations in which we feel most vulnerable and exposed or rejected or criticized, to see what is going on. And the movement into the world is the integrity. It is the recognition. There are the way existence is experienced is via a body mind that is heavily conditioned, that has a whole subconscious realm of beliefs and associations and meanings that are dictating perception. It's dictating the way all relationships play out. And to recognize that existential stress is a signal of something that is being triggered, buttons pressed, because of what's believed about what's needed to be secure and safe, valuable, worthy. And so it really is in relationships that the innermost core of ego protection is revealed. And this makes total sense, because it's through relationships that inner core of ego belief systems is created, isn't it? From our parents, our siblings, our peers at school, our teachers, from the media, from what we pick up in our extended families. As the idea of me is being developed, and as the idea of others is being developed, these belief systems become, the entire reality. And so this quote is a really good reminder that it's not easy. And there is so much integrity and courage and ultimate freedom in being in relationships and not using this exploration as a means of really creating some sort of ice wall around us, so we're untouchable and we get to stay in this sort of superior bubble, when actually all these relationships are there as a mirror. They're literally a mirror of what the ego is made of. And so it's the perfection of the design to move in. And I remember hearing Byron Katie talk about just listening to her children talk to her about how let down they felt as they were growing up, how the things that she did, she was an alcoholic and their life was quite chaotic. And she described sitting there and actually throwing up as they talked to her about what she did. And that's it, isn't it? Ultimate accountability for all behaviors, no avoidance of it via there's no me, there's no doer. Ultimate accountability, ultimate having of the emotional storm that it brings about, and through that, freedom, through that, the most powerful relationships, so profound and strong and unconditionally loving, because that is the process. That's the way it gets to that state. Yeah, so I love that quote. Then the next quote is on similar lines, but instead of relationships now, we're talking about the body. And this is from Khalil Gibran. And it says, "It is slavery to live in the mind unless it has become part of the body." Boy, what a quote for our time that is, really. Maybe has that never been as relevant as it is in today's society, where the body is becoming the slave to the identity, isn't it? That the body is being so abused, misused, ill-treated, damaged in order to affirm and support an idea and the mind's idea of what we think we are, what we think we should be. And how backwards can that be? So not only is the body, the body is the battleground in which the mind struggle plays out. So habits and addictions, numbing practices, all of it take stress, isn't it? Takes its toll on the body because of what the mind is projecting and then fighting against, how the mind tries to switch off the idea of self because it's so untrue, it's so disruptive. But because there's no questioning of it, it just has to be shut down rather than questioned. That shutting down has implications for the physical system. So that's happening anyway. But now there's this added element in which the body is being carved up, drugged, manipulated to try to secure the idea of me. And that way is only insanity. We're considering that the body is representative of the infinite intelligence that we are. Trillions of reactions being subconsciously managed all the time. And the mind to settle back into that intelligence, to recognize no separation from it, no individual doer that is apart from that, is absolute sanity. And now this lovely quote from Mary Oliver. I go down to the shore in the morning, and depending on the hour, the waves are rolling in or moving out. And I say, oh, I am miserable. What should I do? And the sea says in its lovely voice, excuse me, I have work to do. And I chose this because, as I see it, there are three purposes of existence in human form. The first purpose is the experience of what we're not. It's the momentary and temporary belief that what we are is separate, that there is a separate entity that has to control and manage emotions and thoughts and beliefs rather than it being created by that. And that belief system of separation is really an experience of what's not true, of what we're not. So the second purpose then is to realize that, for the mind to come into its sanity, to settle into the truth of what it is, and to really in that space settle into its enormous power that now no longer has to be numbed or curtailed, rather it's liberated. And in its liberation, it increases the sanity of the whole system. And then that leads to the third purpose, which is our work. What is it? And it will depend wholly on the individual body, mind, and its interests, its passions, the problems that are gnawing at it to solve in the world. And this, I just love this. The sea says in its lovely voice, excuse me, I have work to do. The simplicity of it and the contrast between the mind that is self-worrying and in that spiral of self-worrying, of I am miserable. What shall I do? Of what how am I going to find home? How am I going to find peace? And we're really looking here that it can't be found in separation. And through that realization, then the whole body mind becomes what it always was, which is part of the whole, part of nature, the waves. Excuse me, I have work to do. Our work is revealed as the mind settles into truth. And then finally, a lovely quote from Steve Chandler, who's one of the nicest, kindest people that we could ever meet. We're so lucky to have Steve in our lives. You believe that you live in the universe when in reality the universe lives in you. Such a simple, as always with Steve, so simply said and conveying a whole world in that. And it takes us back to the first quote from Deepak Chopra. But this time it's really saying there's ultimate accountability for the entire way everything appears. It's originating here. The entire universe begins here through this combination of infinite and form. The world appears. And the big question is, now what? And hopefully from the other quotes that I've read out, you'll already be thinking, we go deeper into the world from there. This is not a way to deny the appearance of poverty or violence or injustice, discrimination. It's not a way to deny the impact of our own behaviors. It's not a way to deny that we ourselves are doing the very things that we most resent and resist in the world. It's the way that all of that is recognized. And so the movement deeper into this universe, acknowledging that it's entirely originating from me here, and the mind now is moving in to see what's true, that's absolute sanity and accountability, transformation and liberation. And it begins here with us. And so beautifully said by Steve Chandler. So there are my 5 quotes to celebrate the 50th episode, and to thank you all so much for listening, and for everyone who participates in the membership. I'm so grateful to you all. What a privilege for us all to be in this conversation. Thank you. Bye. Thank you for listening to Superpowered Mind with me, Claire Diamond. If you want extra support in the exploration of your mind, download our exclusive subliminal recording, especially for podcast listeners, on bit.ly/podcast subliminal.